Up shortly. Right, here we go. Hello and welcome to another chat about Black History Month. My name is Sandra Pollock, and I invite a few of my friends to talk about various topics. And this month, we're talking about Black History Month. I am, for those who may not know me, the founder of the Women's Awards, also Inspiring You, which is one of the other companies that I run, and another company is open mind training and development, leadership management, organizational change, and diversity and inclusion consultancy. So that's what I do in some of my spare time. But today we are talking about Black history, and you can see I have a guest, wonderful guest, Professor Clive D. Fraser, who is Professor of Economics at the University of Leicester. Clive, welcome.
Uh, Thank you for having me, Sandra.
You're very
Welcome to
welcome.
you.
Yeah, thank you. So we're talking about Black history, and in October here in the UK, we make a specific go at recognizing this whole process of Black history. Um, I get some people say to me, well, why do we need it? On the one hand, you get some people say, why do you need it? And on the other hand, you get some people say, well, it shouldn't only be on in October. Two kind of questions there, but what would you have to say on those things?
Well, if we did have an adequate focus on Black history throughout the 12 months of the year, then clearly there wouldn't be a need to have a specific month dedicated to the topic. But as of now, sadly, that is not the case.
Mhm.
Indeed, we know that it is only recently that one country within the Union, Wales, has decided that Black history should be a mandatory subject within the curriculum. So presumably, Wales could dispense with Black History Month from now on because it's going to be taught throughout the year. It's going to be integrated within the history curriculum, as it should be. But that is not the case
Mhm.
in England, and it is not yet the case in Scotland. So until such happy time, I think we need to have a Black History Month because Black history is actually of fundamental importance, not just to Black people, but it is of fundamental importance to understanding the history of all of the United Kingdom, and I would argue all of the world.
Yeah. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And I always say Black history is world history because the economies of so many countries have profited and continue to profit on the slave trade, the results of that, the impact on that, and continually profit on the African continent, but also the output of African people as they were spread across the world. So I completely agree with you. And, I go into schools, frequently to share on Black history and the contribution of Black communities in the UK. Absolutely, because it isn't on the national curriculum. And not only that, we need to make sure that when it is on the curriculum, it is it is the truth, and it's
Yes,
not whitewashed. Let's be real about it. It's not whitewashed. Yeah.
yes, I think that is really a very important aspect too, because for whatever reason, we do currently seem to have a trend towards canceling real history.
Yeah.
People are talking about the cancel culture as if that is something that is a charge that should be levied at black people. But in fact, what black people are saying, tell the truth,
Mm.
tell the complete history, don't cancel the bits that embarrass you, the bits which talk about your enslavement of black bodies, and the fact that your prosperity um, really took off when you started slavery.
Yeah.
This is what we want. So,
Yeah, absolutely. We need to make sure that it is the true history as well. And the more research I do about, African culture and Black culture, even I am amazed because so much has been whitewashed and hidden and reduced. So even as a Black person, I'm continually learning about my own culture, and the things that Black people invented, even in the centuries that we live in now, the impact they've had on mobile phones, refrigeration, refrigerated trucks, simple things, as well as things that we use, security, home security, all sorts of things that we use today. And there is not the knowledge shared out there that these contributions have come from Black people. And I think that that's sad.
yes, well, it's interesting that you mentioned inventions because take the expression "the real McCoy." Well, as you might know, that is associated with Elijah McCoy, who was a black Canadian stroke American person who was born in 1844 and actually lived until 1929. But Elijah McCoy had 57 patents to his name,
Wow.
mainly centered on lubrication for steam engines. But he was a pivotal person in that area,
Yeah.
and belatedly he was inducted into the Inventors Hall of Fame, I think in the 1980s
Mm.
sometime, or thereabouts. But uh, his achievements came against a background of a time where it was actually very difficult for black people to get any education at all.
Yeah.
Uh, and in some parts of the US and Canada, it was illegal for black people to be taught to read and
Mm.
write. So someone like that is a monumental figure.
Yes, absolutely. And should be celebrated by all, because of the impact on the lives of everybody. The simple thing, like the I've lost a name for it now. The little thing in the light bulb. What do you call that?
The
It'll come.
filament,
Filament.
filament, yeah,
That
yeah,
filament.
yeah,
Light bulbs have to have a filament. That filament was created to work for a long period of time. Edison could not get a
yeah,
filament to
yeah,
work for any length of time. It would constantly blow. But a Black man created the filament that
yeah,
worked.
yes,
But
yes,
but Edison gets the recognition for creating the light bulb. There are actually different parts of the light bulb to make
yeah,
it a light bulb.
yeah,
So those things are things that simple things that people don't quite understand, or they're not told. So that,
yes.
yeah, sorry, go ahead. You were going to say.
No, no, I was going to say it's they're not told or they're not told consistently.
Mm,
Um, I think that real historians recognize, for example, that sugar and then cotton powered the Industrial Revolution.
yes.
Um, and sadly, black suffering was an integral part of both the production of sugar and the manufacturing of cotton, the picking
Yeah.
and the manufacturing of cotton. Um, you cannot escape the black contribution. And if you are interested in telling the whole truth, then you have to center the black experience, the black contribution um, uh, at the center, right,
Absolutely.
left, and center
Yes.
of that narrative.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And other things, we could have such a long conversation. Other things, we look at the museums. We're talking about the stuff that was ferried away from Africa and has been showcased in museums in this country and other countries across the world, and some things that have just been boxed and kept away and not shown. Um, but yet, still, we get this message that Africans were uncivilized and unintelligent, and couldn't do anything at all. But yet, still, the best parts of their visual culture was taken away, and if not taken, copied. If we look at some of the buildings across the world, some of that architecture was first placed and found in Africa. So we talk about Black excellence, and we were briefly talking about this before we came on. And what I wanted us to look at, and obviously from your perspective, is your thoughts on Black excellence, through the histories, but also today.
Well, where do I start? Where do I start? Um, in terms of the name Black Excellence itself, it has special significance to me, insofar as at the University of Leicester we do have a Black Excellence group, which is focused on essentially providing a motivation for all Black students, um, some of whom haven't really experienced all the narrative relating to their own excellence um, during their pre-university education, and might not in some cases be aware of the heights that they can reach. And we try to interact with our students in terms of emphasizing Black excellence in a variety of ways. But one way in which we do that is the simplest way, to bring people who are exemplars of excellence to come to talk to them. So we bring in people who could be called high flyers from all parts of industry, but with all particular students in the business school, people who are high flyers in finance, commerce, and so on. Black people like them, in some cases, people who haven't graduated long, or but who are already doing astonishing things in their
Mm,
careers,
mm,
and so they can see that if they're doing it, well, so can so can I.
mm,
Um, but we also uh, reflect on the issue of Black excellence in a broader context, because we talk about the Black contribution across the board, and we needn't focus on people who are high flyers in business, because we can actually find people who are high flyers in medicine, the arts, the media,
mm.
etc. The really important thing is to show that it can be done.
Yeah.
And these people uh, show that it can be done.
Mhm.
It's ironic actually that we're talking today when the power list has come out,
Yes.
and we've got the top 100 people judged this year to top 100 black
Mhm.
people in the UK who are making their mark. And
Mhm.
we see that they're from all walks.
Yeah.
They're sportsmen, they're scientists, they're people in the arts, they're architecture, mathematicians. I have a particular interest because my cousin Naira Chamberlain is one of those on the power list, and so on. So black excellence is extensive,
Yeah.
but some people act as if it's not there. uh,
Mm.
and
Mm.
it's very important that education at all levels, not just university, but perhaps much more importantly, at schools from day one, emphasize that black excellence exists. It is not just white excellence and black people making up the rear, so to speak,
Yeah.
in any field. That is absolutely not true.
Yeah. I love that because I can't remember now who said it, but there is this, this saying that if people can't see it, sometimes they can't believe it's possible. So having those examples of people achieving across the board, whether it's, community, whether it's arts or music or science or, mathematics, whatever it may be, if we can show young people examples of people who are already, making their mark, then that will encourage others. Yes. And as you rightly said, if this person has done it, do you know what? I can do it. And sometimes somebody has to be the first, somebody has to be the pioneer, but we impact on so many others by just doing what we believe in.
Yes. Well, I think your reference to someone has to be the first is important, but as a number of people have said, including I think my cousin Naira recently, the really important thing when you go into a field isn't to be the first; it's to ensure that you're not the last.
Oh, love that. Absolutely.
Uh, uh,
Absolutely
I think that
perfect.
is so opposite.
Yes.
You want to, if you're in that fortunate position, to pave the way for others to follow you,
Yes.
and they surely will if they have the encouragement, if they have the example, um, and in some cases, if they have the mentoring, um, and the resources that come with that.
Yeah. Absolutely. And mentoring, sponsorship, that sort of support is so important, because it's good to have someone that you can rely on, who you can speak to, even in at those difficult times when you're thinking, oh, this is so hard, but to have someone there at your side really really makes a huge difference. So as we sort of look to sort of round up now, who would you say from the black community, and when I say that I mean worldwide, but I like us not to forget the UK. Usually when we talk about black heroes and heroines, we kind of jump to America naturally because it's so much bigger and the population is so much larger. But if you had to list your black heroes or heroines, who would be on your list and why?
Okay. There are actually so many people that I could go to. I'm going to leave a great economist to last, a great black economist. But clearly, as a 6 feet 3 plus black man, um, there are a lot of sportsmen who influenced me um, at some points in the past. So obviously Muhammad Ali.
Mm-hmm.
uh, who is great, and Vivian Richards, um, the whispering death bowler Michael Holding. um, uh, so they're sportsmen. There are great mathematicians, and give a plug to my cousin Ira again. Um,
Yeah.
but also David Blackwell, who's someone that I've uh, written on in the past, who is perhaps still the dean, doyen, depending on how you pronounce it, of black mathematicians. There would be people in the media, um, sociologists like Orlando Patterson, who I think is a great person, a professor at Harvard, but educated at the, born in Jamaica, educated at the University of the West Indies, then LSE, and now a professor at Harvard, and to my mind, one of the greatest sociologists, one of the wisest persons you could ever encounter. And so it goes on.
Mm-hmm.
But then I have to say, as an economist, the great Sir W. Arthur Lewis, Professor Sir W. Arthur Lewis, Nobel Prize winner, the person who virtually single handedly invented the field of development economics. And he was just a polymath. He within a few years, 3 or 4 years of his PhD, in his late 20s, as I recall, he was a reader at LSE and basically ready to be a professor.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting thing was, people were trying to get him a professorship at Liverpool, as his first professorship in his early 30s. And Liverpool wouldn't have him. And that was their loss because Manchester University snapped him up. Liverpool made many inquiries about him, but for some reason they just didn't think he could fit in.
Mm-hmm.
And he just got totally, I was going to say, peed off with them. And maybe I should, but anyway, he went to Manchester, and I think he was one of the two great economists who established Manchester as a top place for economics, which it still is today.
Yeah.
And then he went on from Manchester to other great things. He was one of those people who would serve in the civil service, created the Caribbean Development Bank, um, vice chancellor of the University of the West Indies, first black vice chancellor of the University of the West
Mm-hmm.
Indies, I should note. Um, then, if you like, retired to be a professor of economics again at Princeton University, and won the Nobel Prize for his seminal work in creating effectively development economics. And so, as an economist, I have to doff my cap to him and say he's the man that, for me, is the number one.
Yes. And should be known about more.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yes, yes. You mentioned something there where you talked about fitting in. And that is a phrase that I must admit that I get annoyed when I hear it. When people say, well, we don't quite think you would fit in, or we don't quite think you would be the right fit. And that is such a sign of an excuse that people use to not accept, people of skill, I think, just because they are not white or of certain ethnic groups. But we could have what's your thoughts on that? We could have a long conversation on that one, I'm sure.
Well, I agree with you. It is typically used as an excuse. In truth, um, any successful organization really needs diversity. And it is well known from studies by McKinsey,
Mm-hmm.
Harvard, etc., that diversity is a strength.
Yes.
So you don't want to hire clones of the existing staff. You want to actually have disruptors, if you like, people who are going to bring in new ways of thinking, new ways of doing. And by definition, those people are not going to fit in. Fitting in will mean that you will continue on the same trajectory.
Yes.
When, if you want typically to move to a higher trajectory, you need people with new ideas and new ways of doing and new ways of thinking. So I really don't put any premium. In fact, I put a negative price on people who just will come along and fit in.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that's lazy management, in my view.
Absolutely.
And that's not an area, that is not somewhere I would want to be in, because clearly you don't want to grow.
Yeah.
And you don't want the best. You don't want the best. You don't want the best, not only in your people, but you don't want the best for your business, for your company, for your ability to strive forward and succeed. And you certainly don't want the best for the bottom line, because as you said, so many studies have demonstrated that with diverse, not only boards, but all the way through the organization, diversity brings change, it brings ideas, it brings innovation, and it brings profitability. So,
Yes. Well,
yeah.
the great economic historian Schumpeter used to talk about the gale of creative destruction. And, and really, that is saying in some respects essentially what we're saying too. If you want to progress, you really need to sometimes take a sledgehammer to the existing ways of doing, the existing technologies.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, Professor Clive Fraser, I enjoy talking to you so much. It is always enlightening, informative, inspiring. And thank you so much for coming on again with me. And thank you for the work that you're doing at the university, but also across our communities as well. And you are one of my heroes, and I thank you so much.
You're one of mine too.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. So we will come back again sometime, and have another chat. Those of you who are watching and picking up on this later, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for helping us celebrate, focus on, and recognize Black history, not only in October, but the rest of the year through as well. And I will be having some other guests as the weeks go forward. So watch out, and keep, I'd say if you're on YouTube, subscribe. Obviously, if you're on Facebook or LinkedIn, then continue to watch the stream. But Professor, thank you so, so much, and wishing you continued success in all that you do. So that's it for now. Thank you very much. I'm Sandra Pollock signing off and saying we'll catch up next time. Okay. Bye-bye all. Bye. Bye.